All right, welcome in on another 1372 show. The QB and the OG in it to win it with the QB who can spin it, Jim Ballard. I'm TJ Downing, and we're here at the NFL Alumni Academy inside of Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. As some guys are out here getting some work done. Jim, I'll tell you what, we knew from last year was 17 guys getting signed to NFL rosters coming out of this NFL Alumni Academy in just its first year in existence. They now have another feather to put in the cap, so to say, with Aaron Adeoye getting signed by the Green Bay Packers this week.
Yeah, it's exciting. We've spent a lot of time here lately, TJ, and had a chance to talk to Dean Dalton and see his vision really evolve and the coaching staff that he has in here. Coach Hayes, a great defensive line coach with the Cincinnati Bengals for a long time, is doing a great job with those guys. And what an opportunity. And it's one of those things, TJ, and I wasn't clear. I get people that ask me all the time, well, are these guys getting paid? Or why are they here? Well, here's what it is. Guys that are here are not being paid to be here. What happens is if they do end up signing, they end up paying back what they owe for being here. So they can spread that out over a couple weeks so it doesn't hurt them when they get those first couple paychecks. So what an opportunity to be here, to be coached up by these types of coaches. Anthony Munoz obviously is another one. And to be seen on film every day, to be working out, to have film each and every day, to let teams know that, hey, I'm game ready. I'm working out every day. Here's my film each and every day on what I'm doing.
Yeah, it was interesting, too. As we were out here, I was talking to one of the coaches working with the offensive line, and they had one of their assistants that kind of jumped in there, holding the bag. And that assistant wasn't ready for that initial shock that they had gotten when one of those big offensive linemen had gotten there and took a little bit of a spill. But you just see the work from week one when we first started covering this at the end of September to now. And yes, the fruit is starting to bear. You're getting someone signed by the Green Bay Packers, an NFL team. They're going to be on a practice squad with maybe a chance by this weekend to be on that active roster. You just never know how things are going to shake out in the league. But to see the work that these guys have started back at the end of September until now, you and I have each been here to kind of get a snapshot on a weekly basis of the work that they're doing. And it's continuously evolving with all the different philosophies. We've talked about that before. Different teams, different styles. You never know what you're going to get. But what it really comes down to is, can you execute the fundamental things that people will struggle with at high school, people will get better at in college, and then you are expected to be 100% perfect on when you get into the NFL. Combo blocks, footwork, all those small things.
Balance.
If that's not 100%, you don't get paid money by an NFL team.
No, you don't. And the thing is, too, you can get by on natural ability at those levels. You can get by with just being a big guy in high school because you're just bigger, stronger, faster. College, to some extent. But if you're not able to master the mechanics, the footwork, the balance, the hand placement, you will get exposed in this league. We've seen this happen numerous times. Guys are too good and too fast off that edge. And if you don't have that right set, or they're bringing down that double A gap blitz, and if you step just a couple inches one way or another, you're going to get exposed, and that quarterback's going to get beat up.
Speaking of taking it back to the high school level, I had a conversation with somebody here in the press box earlier today at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, and they said, yeah, it's a crazy week because it's the 132nd edition of McKinley and Massillon. Probably the greatest high school rivalry in all of North America. And so you have a ton of construction going on here. You have a ton of fans that are going to come waving through here Saturday morning, ready to party, have a good time, and enjoy the festivities around this matchup. But for these players that are going to come out here onto the field, the joke was up here in the press box earlier, they may have more people attending their game than came out to watch the Cowboys and the Steelers get it on earlier this season in the Hall of Fame game, the preseason, the opener to the NFL season. A lot of those people will come in, maybe leave by halftime, but these stands, these 25,000 some seats inside of this stadium, they're expecting to have the majority of those filled with butts from McKinley and Massillon. And for a high school program to put on that type of show, an NFL caliber type show, it's pretty special here in Canton, Ohio, and Stark County in general.
Yeah, it certainly is. And the history between these two teams is just unbelievable. The amount of players and the NFL coaches that have come through both these storied programs. I mean, we could talk on and on. There's You know, the
It's a
unbelievable.
who's list, man.
It really is. And guys today have ties. Obviously, Josh McDaniels being the one, offensive coordinator for the Patriots, long time, and it's just unbelievable. The documentary that was done, Timeless Rivals, between these two teams was so well done. We interviewed the gentleman who put that together at halftime of one of our high school
Dave
games.
Jingo.
Dave Jingo did a phenomenal job with that, and to have it here, like you said, TJ, is special. And the thing that's going to be great about this year as opposed to last year was, you know, they couldn't have all the fans here because of COVID. They couldn't have all the big tailgates and all the excitement and everything that goes into what this game is. And you can appreciate this. We had him up in the booth when we were doing one of our games. Charlie Boots, the brand director for the NFL Alumni, does the NFL Lounge. Blown away by high school football in Northeast Ohio. And this wasn't even the Massillon-McKinley game. You know, he's a Jersey guy. He lives in California. He's seen high school football. But for him to experience just a little bit of what we see every week, and not even this one, was awesome to see. He was just blown away by how competitive it was, everything that went into it. But this is, as they say, the granddaddy of them all.
Yep.
This is a national high school rivalry game. I mean, it's so big that there's a line in Vegas. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than that for a high school game, does it?
No, it doesn't.
You got Caesars rolling the line down on the ticker.
You're
You
gambling
got-
on 15, 16-year-old kids out there. You're gonna have Massillon starting a freshman quarterback this week, and you're over here putting the pink slips and putting the mortgage up against a freshman quarterback.
Right?
You better know what you're doing there.
Yeah, for sure. But it's exciting, and we've done. I think this will be our fourth game together doing this game, and every year it's special. You know, you never take it for granted. You think about the players that we've seen that have just come through here that are now, you know, playing collegiately. You know, you got Thayer Mumford, who's one of the top 5 linemen coming out in this year's NFL draft. You
Gary
got
and Conley already doing it.
Already doing it. Devin Smith got drafted. I mean, Rankle's a true freshman getting time over at Pitt. Jaden Ballard's a true freshman, lost that stripe, getting some time in the fourth quarter with the Buckeyes. And, man, we can talk on, but it's going to be a fun one this weekend. And the excitement, just the whole energy of the stadium is going to be off the chart.
Serious energy going on here inside of Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium and on the campus of the Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls. Speaking of some of those former NFL players, Saturday morning, you and I, we're going to have a chance to catch up here on the campus village. We're going to have some guys come in, guys like Kenny Peterson, Mike Doss, some former NFL players who played in this rivalry. Unfortunately, we had to get Antonio Hall a couple days beforehand because he's going to be coaching in this gig, but played his ball with the Indianapolis Colts, also played some CFL ball like you did, Jim. But the line of guys coming through here that are going to be walking the halls of Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium when this game kicks off at 2 o'clock on Saturday the 23rd. I mean, you mentioned it. Guys that have been at every level, excelled, succeeded. And when we get a chance to talk to a guy like Mike Doss, you know, he's a guy that won a national championship in high school, won a national championship in college, won a Super Bowl in the NFL. I mean, you find me another player around the globe who can say they've checked all 3 of those boxes, and we'll bring them up here to Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium.
I want to meet that guy.
Them.
That's the trifecta. I mean,
trifecta box.
Not a state championship in high school. We're talking about a national championship in high school, in college, and to win the ultimate Super Bowl ring. I mean, it's an unbelievable career. And we watched him. I watched him. You know, when he was here at McKinley, I watched him obviously at Ohio State, and I watched him with the Colts. And I mean, it was cool for you know, an older guy like me to see a local guy to play.
At C.H. Vallis & Associates, we've been proudly serving the greater Stark County community for over 78 years. Locally owned, we cover your home, auto, business, and life insurance along with your group benefits. Our partnership with auto owners has allowed us to span not only Ohio, but throughout the entire country. Did you know that Auto Owners, an A++ rated company by AM Best and a Fortune 500 company, has ranked C.H. Vallis & Associates a top 10 insurance agency in the state of Ohio? From your basic home and auto needs to insuring some of the largest companies in America, there's a reason people choose C.H. Vallis & Associates and Auto Owners. Our dedication and passion for our clients and their coverage is part of our commitment to excellence. For all your insurance coverage needs, there's only one call to make, and that's C.H. Vallis & Associates, located at 1302 South Main Street in North Canton. Contact us at 330-494-2776 today and see the difference in customer satisfaction.
All right, welcome back in on the 1372 show, the QB and the OG, Jim Ballard, the College Football Hall of Famer. I'm TJ Downing, and we're joined by a special guest, former president and CEO of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's probably it's new to your ears hearing something like that just 5 days fresh into retirement.
It is. It's been of a transition. I've talked to a few people already, obviously, since this has happened, and there's never a really good time to leave something you love as much as I love the Hall of Fame, as we all love the Hall of Fame. But I think there is a right time, it seemed like after enshrining 28 enshrinees in 1 year and having the greatest gathering in football and navigating COVID, and with winter coming on in Canton, Ohio, I kind of think being out here in California with 10 grandkids is the right thing to do.
Wintertime scares a lot of people away around here.
I always love that first snowfall. But then when it turns to ice, when you're 400 pounds, I mean, I can get sliding and take out a whole family. And so I want to be careful of that. But no, it's great. I've already made the rounds with all my grandkids, and already, had Mexican food last night. And forgive me for saying this about Ohio, but this is authentic Mexican food that's here in Southern California. And it's great. I will miss my friends. I'll miss the good people of Canton. But it's also there's a few other things I love to do in life and need to do in life, and certainly being with my kids and grandkids who I have not spent much time with the last 8 years is an important part of that.
So when I reached out to you the other day to be able to come on to our show and get a chance to catch up with you and see what life is going to be like here after leaving your role at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you were actually finishing up one of your final duties over there in Pittsburgh. Talk about that experience, getting over there and seeing those guys that just recently got inducted.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a few other of the ring ceremonies for the guys who were enshrined this year. But that's always, people talk about what's been the most fun part of this job. Some think it's giving out the gold jacket with a commissioner or knocking on the door and letting the guys know what's going on. All of that is, of course, fun and special and dramatic and all about their legacy and their journey. But, the ring ceremonies were something that has grown and grown and grown. And this one was the greatest one of all time because literally you had 5 enshrinees being honored, 4 living Hall of Famers, gold jackets, who were getting their Hall of Fame Ring of Excellence. We've never had that many before. And it was a huge night for the Steelers. And you could see it on Art Rooney's face. I mean, he was just beaming, to have 5 Hall of Famers in this year. But one of the things I've always loved is when you give those guys that ring and you announce their name, you look into their eyes and you can see them listen and react to these fans that are cheering for them one more time. And it's a different kind of cheer. It's not just a cheer for a first down or a touchdown. This is a cheer that is for all you've done in your life for them. And it is so special because, I've seen guys who, nobody, as you guys know, nobody leaves the game well. It's a game you love, and so to leave it is hard, and everybody kind of has a hole in their heart. And I'll tell you, this thing fills that hole, and it fills it with all kinds of good stuff. And to see a guy like Troy Polamalu, who may have wanted to play one more year, but at that moment he was so happy and so excited, and he was reconnected with those fans that he loves. And so it was a great night. I think it's something really good that the Hall of Fame does for these guys and these fans.
Jim, you know who talked about that look in the eye? Marty Schottenheimer. He said, get that gleam. You get that gleam in your eye. And that kind of sounds like that experience right there.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I got to ask you this, Dave. I mean, it's really cool to see the expression and just the, oh my God, I'm in. And I got to ask you, whose idea was it to go knock on the door and to tell the players in that way that they are now going to be enshrined in one of the greatest Hall of Fames ever?
I think it was something we worked on, Jim. I tell the story of my first year here We invited 18 of the finalists to New York City when the Super Bowl was there, and the network wanted to reveal them live on the honors show. And so you have to get them from the hotel across downtown. There's all kinds of traffic in New York. We went late that day, so I'm calling them, and I call Michael Strahan because he lived in New York. He wasn't at the hotel. They had to get across town. I called Derek Brooks because Derek had been a part owner in the Arena Football League, and I considered him a friend, and I wanted to tell my buddy some really good news. The third one was Ray Guy, a punter for the Oakland Raiders, who had been eligible 29 years and had never gotten that call. And I'd only been at the Hall at that point, maybe a month. And so he almost didn't answer because I had area code 714 for Orange County instead of 330. And he did. And with that slow Mississippi drawl, I introduced myself and he said, "Yes, sir." And I said, "Ray, it is my great pleasure." And boom, you could hear him fall to the floor. You could, his wife, Sandy, is going, "Honey, baby, are you okay?" His phone is rattling around. And it was like 2 minutes, which, in media time,
It's a
is a
long time.
long time. And finally, he got to the phone again and he said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't know until now just how much this meant to me."
29 years is a
And
long time to wait, especially with him being one of the greatest punters of all time. Probably should have gotten in before that, but for him to finally get that call and had to be.
look, Jerry Kramer, who waited 45 years.
Mm.
But even for the guys who waited 10 seconds, like Brett Favre, I've seen the humility in them that they know the shoulders that they're standing upon. And so we knew that we had to find a way that fans could see this and experience it and understand it. Because at that moment, they're not thinking how much money they made. They're thinking about their mom that drove them to practice when they're 10 years old, or their dad that wouldn't let them quit, or they're thinking about teammates that help them get it there, or tough coaches that inspired them to do more. And it's like you can see their entire journey. When Randy Moss came to the door, he came to the door as a legit superstar, big time superstar. But when you're a superstar, it's all about you. And as I talk to him, and I basically tell him three things. I say, "Welcome to Canton," because every guy who ever played wants to end his career in Canton where the game began. I said, "Thank you for all you've done for the game and all you're going to do for the game." And then finally, I promise them that we will guard their legacy forever at the Hall of Fame. And tears started flowing, and you could see him feeling his journey. And he was incredibly physically talented, but he had to overcome other things in life and relationship issues and challenges. And respectfully, that's what all you guys do, not just the Gold Jackets, but every guy who played a week in the National Football League. They have their name down there at Centennial Plaza. I hope you guys have seen that, where 25,474 guys played in the first century of the NFL. You have an archive at the Pro Football Hall of Fame if you played even a week, and we can add to that archive. So our job is to keep their legacy too. But Randy Moss and every guy I've talked to, you could see the transition begin right then, where instead of it being about them and their journey, all of a sudden they become an ambassador for the game, and they become the spokesperson for the values that they relied on to get there. I mean, every one of them thought about quitting. I mean, you guys thought about quitting, and it's hard. Fans think that fell out of bed great because you're bigger, quicker, faster, stronger. And let me tell you, it is hard. It's hard to win a game in the NFL. It's hard to play in the NFL. But what you find is a common denominator for all you guys is a love of the game, a love for each other, a perseverance where you don't quit. And I've always felt that when these guys give their speeches, or when we put a spotlight on them, that there's wonderful lessons for the rest of us to learn, that we might not get paid for playing football or have a bronze bust in Canton, but there are qualities that can help us be a better father, in my case, or a better executive or a better soldier. And they certainly can help us be a better community and a better country.
When you think of all those things tied together, David, the relationships are kind of what is lasting. And I know with all the people that you've come across, it's hard to form the same type of bond and relationship with every individual guy. But somebody like Jim, who was in training camp with the Buffalo Bills and in on that roster with a guy like Jim Kelly, we know how special he's been to you, and we know about the struggles he's went through health wise post football. Talk about some of the lasting relationships, some guys that really just have a place in your heart that will stay there forever.
It is a flood of relationships, TJ. I mean, thank you for referencing that. But clearly, Jim Kelly to me is everybody's favorite Hall of Famer. If God is going to pick a man to fight cancer, he's going to pick somebody who grew up in Western Pennsylvania with six brothers, who went to 4 Super Bowls and never won, but never quit, who lost a son and had to endure that pain. Um, Let me tell you, and now he's beaten cancer 3 times. He is not just a heroic football player; he is a stud man in life. And I love Jim a great deal. But I found that true of all these guys. Great relationships, and sometimes I feel it's like my kids. The one you love is the one you're with. And but I also would say that it's. I mean, I did feel it was a privilege to knock on Jerry Kramer's door for having waited 45 years to see Kurt Warner go in after having been the commissioner of the Arena Football League and see his miraculous journey. And by the way, he's got a movie coming out this Christmas, American Underdog, that I hope you guys will all go see, you and your listeners.
I'll definitely go see it.
But Steve Largent, who was too small and too slow, ended up being the leading receiver in the league when he left. So many guys. I mean, I could just go down the line. Uh, you know, but I would also say it's not just Hall of Famers. I love the people on my team at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'll tell you, they work hard. They're busted their butt. You got to remember, this is a national presence um, that kicks off every NFL season, but there's only 64 of them that are full time, and they rely on those 5,000 volunteers in Canton, which is pretty darn special. I mean, to have people who take a week off to put this enshrinement on, there's there's people who've come there with only a week to live because it was their bucket list item. And so there's a flood of memories out of this. One that I will always remember is I was at Super Bowl. And let me tell you, we were real busy at the Super Bowl because you had selection Saturday. You got to get them over to the honor show. Then you got to do the orientation. But just, the brunch before the Super Bowl on Sunday, we got some time. And I'm literally just exhaling, having brunch with a few staff members and a few Hall of Famers. And a little kid, maybe 10 years old, comes up and he asked if he could have this picture taken with me. And well, I've got, I got Brett Favre there and other guys. And he says, ask if he could get me this picture taken. So of course I obliged. And my chief of staff at the time, Pete Fairley, gave me a lapel pin that we have that shows the logo of the Hall of Fame that all of our staff wore. And I bent down, and I'm 6'9", so I'm down a ways to this 10-year-old. And I said, hey, if I give you this pin, will you wear it? And he shakes his head. I said, will you wear it every day? And he shakes his head. And so as I go to pin it on him, his mother bends down and whispers in the other ear, kind of the other side of me, and she says, okay, now you have to live a life of character. And listen, I understand that guys who play football aren't perfect, and it's a difficult culture. But I'll tell you, I think more than anything else, it does stand for character and perseverance. And guys who play this game, Vince Lombardi said that you'll never achieve perfection. But if you relentlessly chase perfection, you might just capture excellence. And perfection in our business, excellence in our business is not pristine and easy. I mean, you guys know, whether you're a quarterback or an offensive lineman, it is about snot coming out of your nose and blood coming out of your mouth and a filthy, dirty uniform and sweat. And matter of fact, it's overcoming all the adversity. And to think that that's what this mother wants for her son is what, to me, the Hall of Fame should be about. And I believe I've seen many, many moments of that. So those are important issues for me, TJ. Those are important memories I'll take with me.
Well, it's tough too when you think about at that young of an age, you talk about striving for perfection, and what we know is something to be almost impossible. There's not a whole lot of people have ever gone out there and played the perfect game, even to a lineman. I'm sure your son Sam sat in there and watched many of films and said, if I would have just taken that first step a little bit deeper or a little bit tighter the line of scrimmage, I would have made that block. The small things that keep it perfect or keep you from being perfect. But you mentioned Kurt Warner. I was fortunate enough to be in training camp with him with the Arizona Cardinals, and for that movie to come out right before Christmas and to talking about underdogs, the underdog story. We got these guys here at the NFL Alumni Academy, and I think that's one of the greatest partnerships that's been formed with the NFL Alumni Association. We've been fortunate enough to have the blessing of Beasley Reese and Bart Oates to be able to do this podcast here. But to know that these guys are out there just trying to get onto a roster, but they're seeing that, maybe the dream isn't too big to know that maybe my career could come full circle and I could be right here one day. I could be a guy like Kurt Warner who, I was fighting, clawing, trying to do anything I could to just get into this league and get an opportunity. And it happens. And look what, number 13 ends up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, let me just say, I want to emphasize here, I'm a big fan of Bart Oates. There's a guy who I think won five championships in 3 leagues with three teams.
He did.
So somewhere, wherever he went as center, his team did really well. And it wasn't just snapping the ball, and it wasn't just hand placement or how you got off the ball. It was what you said in the locker room and how you pull other people. I have seen a commonality between somebody like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. They are down to the detail, not only on themselves, but on encouraging and inspiring other guys. And again, I got a front row seat to see the life of Kurt Warner and Brenda Warner, who I have a lot of affection for too. He fought, he scratched, he clawed, but he didn't get his break in Green Bay. He didn't even get a shot in Green Bay. But once he finally got his break, when Trent Green went down, man, he was ready. And I actually think the quickness and speed of the reads and what you had to do in arena football helped him there, make the game on the 100-yard field slow down. But, he also did it with New York, and then he came back and did it with Arizona. And again, what I think is really important, TJ and Jim, is that, what you talked about the game of football not being perfect, life isn't perfect either. Are you guys there? I lost you for a second.
No, we're here. Hey, and life's not fair either.
No, it's
yeah,
not at all.
And again, we're not going to be in a situation where we, we're not going to say everything perfect to our wife on that day. It is one of those things where, a big issue that you learn in football that gets forgotten in life is forgiveness. Aeneas Williams, who is a superhuman being, now working as a pastor in Ferguson, Missouri, but a defensive back. I once asked him, what's the most important thing you learned from football? And he said, it's forgiveness. If you get beat, you can't be thinking about how you got beat on the next play. You got to forgive yourself and move on and make that next play better. And he said, now that I'm working in Ferguson, Missouri, and I see the anger and the hate, sometimes he said, people have such a difficult time forgiving others or forgiving themselves that they can't move forward. And what a great lesson that is in life.
Unbelievable.
One day I'm talking to, it's great to have the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But one day I'm talking to James Harris and I asked him, what's the greatest lesson he ever learned from Eddie Robinson? And he said that when he was going to Buffalo, like Jim did, he got drafted 8th, but he'd been the MVP of the historical Black colleges. And at that time, remarkably, believe it or not, people thought that a Black man couldn't be a quarterback. So they wanted him to convert to a defensive back or running back or wide receiver. And he wasn't going to go. And Coach Robinson said, no, you're going to go and I'll call him. And if you are asked to play another position, politely say no. And sooner or later, they're going to give you some reps at quarterback and you can show what you do. And James said yes. But Coach Robinson said, but I want you to promise me something. He said, yes, sir. He says, promise me that if you don't make it, you'll never once the rest of your life use as an excuse that it's because you were a Black man. My jaw dropped.
Yeah.
This was not too long after Colin Kaepernick. And he said that Coach Robinson said, he said, if you, he said, actually Shaq said, Coach Robinson taught him 2 things in that one statement. One is that life is going to be unfair. He says, get ready, it's going to be unfair. Don't let it knock you off. But if you let it stop you from other things, you're hurting yourself more than the perpetrator of that unfairness. And I thought, wow, what an incredible lesson. And at first I thought I was thinking of all the young Black men, who were focused on Colin Kaepernick at that time. Then I thought of my own 2 sons who aren't Black, but need that lesson. Finally, I think, wait a second, I'm an old white guy. I need to know this.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many wonderful lessons of forgiveness. And I'll tell you, a big part of what you guys do is love. It is loving the game. It is loving the hard work. It is, taking the criticism and loving it, getting better, but it's also loving each other. And I have seen so many guys who are the early pioneers of the NFL, who were in the AFL, for instance, when they moved that All-Star game, because Blacks weren't allowed to stay at the same hotel. These guys were on the cutting edge of race, and America needs to catch up with them. So it's just been a lot of great stuff, guys, and a lot of great lessons. And I think the NFL Academy is a great thing that'll give some guys a shot. And I think you don't have to be a quarterback to be a Kurt Warner. You can be an offensive guard or a defensive lineman or any of those things where guys just need their shot.
The great thing is, Dave, we're all sitting here. We've all been ingratiated in this game for years. We've all played it and at a high level, and you talk about it. Just all the life lessons and everything that comes with this game, because it is, to me, the best team sport in any sport. You got your guards, you got your quarterback, you got your running back, you got all these moving parts, and it only takes one guy to make a mistake. And like you said, forgive the guy if you get blindsided on that when you're picking up grass out of your face mask when you're ready.
Sorry,
when you're ready,
buddy.
when you're to come at him. But all the lessons that you learn, like you said, perseverance and hard work, and for me personally, being a Division III kid to try to get to the level that I did. I mean, I appreciate it, that much more. And you talk about Kurt Warner. I played against Kurt in the Arena League. I had a front row seat. When I went back to NFL Europe in 1998, it was Kurt Warner and Jake Delhomme with the Amsterdam Admirals on the same team. It could have been one of those things where maybe they gave the start to Jake because they were both allocated under contract. But no, Kurt, took what he did from the Arena League and played at that level in Amsterdam. And then, as you said, that's what really got him the shot. Trent had just signed that big contract. And then Trent goes down the first preseason game, and it's like, okay, this guy has this great opportunity, and he just played 10 games and played at a high level. So they rolled with him when they could have brought in a veteran. And, obviously the NFL doesn't have NFL Europe now, but it does have the NFL Alumni Academy. And I really believe that there will be some of those guys, we're talking about in 10 years that got that shot, that continually put the hard work in, that, were here away from their families, not making any money at all, to just try to get that shot and to try to get back, to the level that they were at, to get back into training camp, to get on a team and to play the game that they love. It's just a great opportunity. And we're just all very fortunate from all the opportunities that have come from the game too, not just the life lessons, but the opportunities, us sitting here talking to you because of this game of football that we love so much. Curtis Martin, we interviewed over the Hall of Fame Enshrinement Week, talked a lot about that. It wasn't about the money that he was making. He was thinking about the things that he could do after football because of the game.
Yeah.
And it's just been.
Jim, you're exactly right. I mean, the great Bill Curry, who won 5, NFL championships, but then went on to be a coach at Alabama, Georgia Tech, and in the NFL. But he has a saying. He says that football is the only sport where every player needs every teammate on every play just to survive. And I think there's great lessons in all sports, but I think that's really true of football. But I would also say that that's, again, making that transition to the metaphor of life. If you're a soldier in Fallujah, you need every soldier on every action just to survive. If you're our family, and again, so I'm a big believer. You mentioned Mount Union. I was always fascinated. You guys would have 200 guys on a team, okay? And what I believe is, yeah, there's a guy like you who gets a shot in the NFL, but I believe that those values that you learned and all those other guys who never got a shot, I believe that there are important lessons there that that will help you become better at whatever you need to be. Football doesn't just reveal character, and I know people know that it does, but I think it also helps people learn character. When respectfully, when we're trying to save a marriage or survive a divorce or have a financial crisis or an ethical crisis, very rarely would you go back to your chemistry teacher, your calculus teacher for advice. But I'll tell you, we all generally go back to our coach, because that guy taught you how to get up when you get knocked down, how to keep going when you think you could get going. And those educators are important, and God bless them. They, don't get the recognition they need. But I'll tell you, those coaches at the youth level, at the high school level, not just at the NFL level, I believe that they make our country better by what they invest in those kids. So I agree with you. It's we at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you have this enormous platform that is the NFL. It is a huge platform. It is a huge brand, but it's an opportunity to share all these other messages. It's not just about hero worship. It's about how these guys fought, persevered, loved to become heroes. And the real heroes, we all know, are those guys who are defending our country and fighting for our public safety, or firemen, or those teachers in schools. But it can help you in each of those aspects.
Dave, when we start to look to some processes inside of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, this is something I think this is a topic that comes up a lot, and it kind of reared its head here this previous summer with Drew Pearson getting in the Hall of Fame. Guys, we speak of unfair. There's some guys out there that say, hey, listen, maybe I should be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe there's some guys in the Hall of Fame that didn't have the same numbers as I did. We just had a guy on here who played 17 years for the Atlanta Falcons, has more starts at offensive tackle than anybody else in league history, and Mike Ken. And I say, hey, listen, TJ, nothing against a guy like Jackie Slater. I love him. He's one of my best buddies, but I started more games than him. And he goes, I look at that as kind of the standard for offensive linemen. When you look at the selection process, you have modern era guys now. Now you have your senior committee. What would you say if you breaking down that process, or some things that maybe in the future we could see change, or some things that you like there in place? I sometimes call it the Ken Stabler effect. you want to have these guys here to be able to appreciate the honor
Yeah,
of being into the Hall of Fame before they're gone. And we
yeah,
know that a lot of time it's the guy who is writing in your area, and maybe now with the way media is, we see it's more of a revolving door. How you stay relevant with the guy that's covering the local Atlanta market or the California market.
yeah, TJ. I think that's a very good observation, and yeah, I think that's for that's something during my tenure there, we added the contributor category and we added the coaching category, uh, and we had the senior category, uh, and I know that's something that the board looks at regularly, and has to look at regularly, and the selectors as well. Uh, I would just say it's hard to get into the Hall of Fame. It should be hard to get into the Hall of
Right.
Fame. I think it is the best, most exhaustive process, and those selectors take it very, very seriously. But it's hard to get into the Hall of Fame. But what I would say is that you mentioned Mike Ken. His story is important too. His journey is important, whether he's got a bronze bust or not. That's why that archive is there. So how can we preserve his legacy out of that? And again, I think the hall will continue to, I'm sure, guard the legacy of not just the guys with the bronze bust, but also the other guys in the league, the NFL alumni, because there's wonderful stories in there. All these guys from the historical black colleges, some of them don't have a bronze bust, but boy, there's spectacular stories of inspiration
You talked about
and encouragement.
I'm sorry about that, Dave. You were talking
No.
about legacies and the players and what their lasting effect was. You spent 8 years here, did a lot for the community. What do you think in 10 years that your legacy will be here when you look back?
Well, I'll tell you, I am seriously concerned that the profitability of McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King are going to drop, because yeah, I was there a lot. Okay, but especially when my wife was back here in California and I was still there. But I would say this: there was a young lady at the window at Wendy's who all she did was watch the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader TV show, and she loved it. She wanted to meet him, and so when they came to town, I made some calls and I got her to go to a practice, and it was a dream come true for her. And what I would tell you is, it's been a real privilege to serve all these Hall of Famers, to serve those who played the game itself, and the good people of Canton in any way I could. And I think it's one of those things where it's a great job when you can help other people's dreams come true. Whether it's introducing somebody to somebody, or showing them something, or inspiring them, somebody who's terminally ill, it's a wonderful deal. And I will have a flood of emotions to take with me, and a flood of lifetime memories with me of really good people who worked their butt off to serve this mission. There's some great staff people there, I'll tell you, that are totally dedicated. And so it's been my privilege and it's been my honor. And like I said, it's hard leaving something you love that much, but it's also one of those things where I think that God's got wonderful plans for the Hall of Fame, for the Hall of Fame Academy, NFL Alumni Academy, for all the programs that are there. And I think it's perfectly positioned now to go on to another level. I think Canton is perfectly positioned to go on to another level. I think the Hall has never been in a better position. And I think the game, frankly, in the NFL has never been in a position. So I think, it's positioned well. And I think it's a good time, like I said, for me to move on and love grandkids, enjoy abundant sunshine whenever it's cold out there, and to also eat all the Mexican food I can.
Hey, serving others is what the man upstairs tells us to do. So I understand where you're coming from that. And we know that you've been flooded with emails, calls, texts, everybody kind of wanting to know what your next plan is and congratulating you on the tenure here. So we want to say first, before we wrap things up with you here, just a couple more questions. We appreciate you joining the 1372 show, the QB and the OG, Jim Ballard, TJ Downing, and David Baker. Your time is very much valued and appreciated by us. Some things you just mentioned there, it almost, to me, it feels like from when I played at Ohio State, you knew Jim Tressel wasn't going to be running the show there the entire time. Eventually, regimes change, and that's just part of life. And when we had a chance to sit down just a few weeks ago with Ann Graffis, she really got in depth with us about the plan for the Hall of Fame Village. And when you talk about being powered by Johnson Controls, how she said this will become like a model home for places all around the world to see what you can do here inside of a village. When you look back 10 years down the road from now, what are some things when you kind of see everything finally take shape here that you will be most proudest of?
TJ, for me, I mean, I'm thankful for Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. When I got here, it was Fawcett Stadium, and frankly, it was crumbling. There were areas that had to be taped off, so that people couldn't sit in it because it was dangerous. And that is a world-class, legitimately small venue NFL stadium. Forbes said it was one of the 13 game-changing stadiums in the world. And I think of Tom Benson, who, along with some other folks, made a very special gift to just get it started. I think the Black College Football Hall of Fame. I think the stuff that we've done with youth. But I think most importantly, I think it's been the things we've talked about. It's been that it's not just about football as entertainment, and it's not just about the worship of football heroes. I think it's about this mission. I think it's about these values. And I don't know, if or what legacy I might have, and what you've learned, another great lesson you learn in football is that you're only as good as your last game, and once something happens, boy, you could be out the door quickly.
What have you
So I
done for
don't
me
know.
lately?
Yeah, that's the expression I'm looking for. You're exactly right. But I think there's some great people there that are gonna. I'm absolutely convinced that everything you're talking about has a great future in it, and Canton is well positioned for that leadership. Let's remember that when we filled that football stadium this last year, we filled it, close to 4 times. But when we filled it for that game between the Cowboys and the Steelers, that was the first full stadium for football in about 18 months.
Yeah.
And that was that picture, that message was an important message to our country. And that was done by these incredible 5,000 volunteers that give their heart and soul to this thing. So listen, I don't, I'm confident that there's going to be a lot of good things that continue, but I think there's going to be new things that new people come along and do. That's going to be exciting as well.
Well, definitely, I've heard you answer questions and be very candid with us, and you spent 8 years here. And the message that I'm getting from you, David, is it's like what my parents told me: leave it a little bit better than what you found it. And you've obviously done that. And we're looking outside at all the construction that's going on, the Excellence Center that was getting done under your watch. Is there anything different that you might have done looking back over the 8 years you had here?
Oh yeah. Listen, I think it's just like the game of football. When whether at Ohio State or whether in the NFL or whether at Mount Union, you always watch film on Monday, and you look at it and you go, "Gosh, I could have done this or could have done that." But I think the big thing is, did you give it everything you had? Did you leave it all on the field? And that's what I've attempted to do, is give it everything I had.
Well, if you're going to take a page out of Vince Lombardi's book, now you can just lay there on the field victorious and enjoy it all as it comes rolling in. Um, what should people know about Jim Porter, the guy who's going to come in here and replace you? You've had a chance to work alongside him as he was brought on as a board member. Talk about him and talk about the type of person he is and what he'll do moving forward for the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think Jim did a wonderful job at the repository for many, many years, not only as the publisher of the repository, but he used that position to do other great good, to help build, with a great group of guys. And when I say guys, I mean men and women, Centennial Plaza and so many other projects. And I think he's going to take what I think is a spectacular staff there and continue to do things at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I know he has it in his heart. And I know he's a lifelong guy there from Stark County. And so I think Jim will take it to new levels and new opportunities.
Before we get you out of here, David, if you could say one final word to those 5,000 Enshrinement Festival volunteer people that were on Todd Stover's staff running security and all the people that continue to come through the doors of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and will come through the doors of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If you could give them one lasting word here as you head off into the sunset, into retirement, man, what would it be?
Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate all you've done, but I think it's got to be 3 words, not just one word, TJ. I love you.
Great stuff, David. Hey, we're going to catch up with you down the line, man. Enjoy retirement. Enjoy the game of football. Enjoy your grandkids. And we will talk to you here soon, man. Thank you for joining us on the 1372 show.
Thanks, yeah. God bless. Thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for all you've done for the game. Thanks for what you're doing for the